Wait.
Welcome, Russ. How's it going? Okay, guys, we are going to get started. Sorry about the delay. Just wanted to make sure we were webcasting. So today, as you all know, we will be learning about React. We will also be learning about ES6. So I think our first couple exercises are on ES6, right, Jonathan? Is that what you did yesterday?
No, we did day 2 stuff.
Oh, you did day 2 stuff already?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So we're going to stick with the original schedule and still be on day 1 stuff. But since we had the extra meta information from Saturday, it should make it a lot easier for you guys. So today is going to be called ES6 Extravaganza. ES6, that is terrible. Just terrible.
Yeah, kind of running short on funds.
Okay, so we're going to install Babel CLI. We'll also be learning about Babel. As we know, Babel is a what? It's a transpiler, meaning it does what? Is everyone clear on this, though? Does everyone understand what Babel does? It can convert one thing into another thing, and it can do whatever conversions you tell it to do. So if you tell it to just convert arrow functions into ES4, it will just do that. You can tell it to just convert arrow functions and tick marks, say, or string interpolation. So it will just do those 2 things. Or you can make it do as many ES6 features as you want. Or if you wanted, you could even go the other way. You could transpile ES4 into ES6, or you could convert basically anything into anything else. Do you guys see how that works?
Is it best to place it as a plugin in your text editor?
No, we're going to be using Grunt or Gulp, which are called task runners. So we'll have it set up in our projects where it will just automatically run for us with a thing that we call a task runner. That will also handle converting our less and Sass when you guys start using that to regular CSS. So it does a lot of different stuff for you. It minifies all of your files, which makes them faster to download, so your page will load faster. So it does a lot of that stuff, and we'll get into all of that. But we'll just start, I guess, with the first exercise. We'll get right into it, unless anyone has anything they want to say. Welcome, Sam.
Really quick, did everyone install Babel CLI?
Oh, do we not have a time in class to do it? I thought it said just for me as the instructor to do it. We recommend you run the following. It says for the instructor to do it before class. Yeah, but I think they get time to do it. Yeah, that's okay. Welcome, Sam. Have a seat. So anybody like to share anything before we get started? Anything that you've learned about React? Anything you think about React? Anything at all? Something about your day, your commute here?
I brought lionfish ceviche.
You brought lionfish where?
Ceviche.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, that is exciting. That is noteworthy.
For everyone to have a taste.
Okay, so I can have like 1 piece of fish.
You might want to set it now and not wait until
No, well, it's in lemon juice, so the lemon juice keeps it fresh, right?
Well, it's been cooking since yesterday.
Really? And not refrigerated at all?
No, it's been refrigerated, just and you need like an hour from when you prepare it to when you eat it.
Is lionfish a kosher fish? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Really?
Yeah.
I've actually never been to the aquarium. I've been to the Science Museum. They have like a small aquarium. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool there. Did you see the shark tank from below where you can like watch the sharks swimming and stuff?
I got to see 2 bull sharks yesterday in person.
That's awesome.
Like maybe 20 feet long.
Yeah, that's hard to top. It's like, okay, but React, yeah.
We're starting from 101, not 1. That confused labs too.
Wait,
That's day 2
101.
stuff. 1, 2, 3 is day 2. 101, 102, 103 is day 1.
Wait, 101 activities.
Activities go all the way down to 100 and 130.
Oh, okay.
That's day 1 stuff, yeah.
And then this is, why would they do it that way?
I have no idea.
Okay, so we have this first ES6 warm-up activity for you guys. This is just to get your brains rolling, let you practice some of your ES6 stuff. It should be pretty easy. Why don't you guys all go ahead and try to do this one individually, just so we can give you guys a chance to work individually in case anybody's not getting the right practice with mobbing. Yeah. So pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to open up var example JS and do the stuff they say. Replace each question mark in the comments with the value you expect to be printed. So you can take a look at this real quick and I'll let you guys do it and then we'll go over it together. So I don't know why they have it log and not console.log. Do you know, Jonathan? Are you supposed to make a function called log that console logs? Or does it actually just work without the console?
Yeah. Saturday.
Today is week 19. Will this work without the console
I
dot?
think it's more like pseudocoding. Like, what's the output of this log or what?
Oh, okay. So it is, but Sublime colors it in,
You have
which is why I'm.
Maybe.
Yeah, let's just try this and see. So they're giving us this log without the console dot. So I'm just curious to see if it will actually work. I don't think it will, but I'm curious.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So
It does work?
Console.log was replaced with a method called log, which logs the lines of code for each log.
What? Logs the
Yeah,
lines
it
of.
says that the implementation isn't important right now, so they can look into it if they have extra time.
Oh, but it does work. So if I
Yeah.
just do like, what is the difference?
It's a method that logs the line of code for each log.
It says log is not defined
Right,
here.
it's
At
not
least
built in,
in
it's
Chrome.
like something they ordered, they use.
Oh, okay. So I guess they're using like a library for this. There's no package.json. I don't know, but the important thing is,
Well, there's no import.
and then there's no variable called name. I'm kind of confused. So we're going to log name. This should be undefined. Then we're running tiny size to make name. We're saying tiny plus name. You guys see how this works? So just go through, do your best, try to figure out what it's supposed to log. We're going to take, how much time do you guys want for this realistically? 10 minutes? 5 minutes? Can we do it in 5 minutes? 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Which one do you guys want?
Wait.
Let's take 5 minutes and then we're going to go over it together. This is number 101 from the exercises, sorry. Does everyone have it up? Yeah, everyone have it? Okay, 5 minutes starting now.
The answers to that is not in the solve folder. It's in the GitHub, and it tells you where all the issues are and all that.
Oh, weird. On the lesson plan?
Yeah, on the lesson plan. Number 3 would be review.
Okay.
Because it's all a bunch of like scoping issues. Because then after the next thing is you're gonna choose let and the const,
Okay.
which helps solve those issues. and stuff.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the name is hoisted though, because it's running in ES6, so it's using var hoisting. That is working.
Yeah, hoisted, it's global, functional. Yeah, so it goes over like hoisted, leaked, global scoping, all the stuff.
Wait, where was it?
All right.
Okay, I declare included but not in function, so it is not
Yeah.
leaked or hoisted.
Since under function I is now globally because it leaked out of.
Right, not okay.
Yeah, so, you know,
declared
so-
it as var I instead of var I.
Yeah. So,
Okay, that's fine. We already went over this stuff. So it should be
Yeah.
okay.
In the readme, it says this is, Dan doesn't have internet.
Yeah, I saw.
And it says, go to check out West Boss, simple constant let. That's my man.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. Talk about constant versus let. You do 101, by the way. 101? Oh, no, not 101. Yeah, okay. Oh my gosh. No, it's it. Oh, yeah, that's it.
Okay, you guys have 2 more minutes. Then we're going to go to another exercise just like it.
Are these exercises in the week 19? That was.
It's 101, not 01 in the week 19 zip. I don't know why they did it that way. It was confusing. Jonathan saved me. I'm getting confused by that. Did everybody get that? It's the 101, not the 01
Yes.
in the week 19? Okay. Okay, and we're going to take 30 more seconds for this and then go over it. And then, so what is in the solve folder then, Jonathan, if it's not this?
Oh, I guess it's
I think it is. I think this tells us what it's going to do.
2.
Yeah, and the other one is let. So we'll give it another, well, it's 46 already. Okay, you guys good with that? You want to stop and talk about how it works? Okay, let's stop and talk about it. So we have 2 examples in the solve. There are a few things that are happening here. First of all, we're logging this name thing without defining it. Does anybody know why they're doing it that way? Anybody want to take a guess from something we discussed on Saturday? Yeah.
To show the difference between var and let.
No, but they're doing other stuff to show that. This is doing something else we talked about. Jackie, you mentioned it when we talked about ES6 features.
Is it template string?
No, Mario?
It's defined further down.
It's defined further down. So it's a feature of ES6 called var hoisting. Remember we talked about that? Yeah, so it hoists the variable. So even if you declare a variable below where you're calling it, it will still sometimes try to reconcile that as best it can. This is not optimal. You should never write your code to depend on var hoisting. It's sort of like a last resort, or there's some weird edge cases where it makes sense. Mario, you gave the example, I think, of the getters and setters. So sometimes you'll want to use a getter within a setter or something, and the getters are higher up. So sometimes it makes sense to use it. It's good to have, but don't rely on it. So this is the first thing that they're trying to show us here. There's this feature of ES6 called var hoisting. Second thing, sorry, I'm just going back and forth between. So we have a few other things being hoisted. Can anyone else see a variable that is being called before it's been declared? What about this MINIM variable? Yeah. So that's another example of that. So this var I, we can log from outside the scope of this for loops block because vars are what? Vars have function scope, not block scope, as we talked about. So a for loop is an enclosing block, but it is not an enclosing function. So if you're using var, it is function scoped, not block scoped. So it will leak out here, which they call a memory leak. It isn't technically really a memory leak, but it's leaked or hoisted outside. This is leaked because it's function scoped, and because of ES6 hoisting, it gets hoisted up. So they're showing us a lot of different features of ES6 in a convoluted kind of way. So this next solution we have here uses let and const instead. You guys all remember what let and const do? Const is? It's a constant. It's immutable. It's read-only. Some good things to use a const for are when we require our libraries because they don't change. Pretty much anything in your application that's going to stay the same and not change throughout, you should make it a constant. Let, what did we say the difference between let and var is?
Block versus function scope.
Block versus function scoped. Does anybody want to try to answer a job interview question about this? Someone I haven't heard from yet.
What's the question?
Okay. Okay, awesome, Jose. So say we're in a job interview and I ask you, what if I declare a variable inside an if statement? Where in the scope of my application will it be accessible? No, if you use let with block scope, it'll be accessible from the if statement. If you use VAR, it will be accessible from the closing function. VAR is function scope, so it will be accessible from anywhere in the closing function. If you were to use let instead, then it would only be accessible within the scope of the if block. Yeah. Yeah, same with a for loop. For is an enclosing block, but it isn't a function. So for var, which is function scoped, it doesn't enclose the scope of that.
So if I run an if statement and I declare var x is equal to 3, I close the if statement. Somewhere else down in my program, I can still check is x equal to 3?
Yeah, absolutely. We showed this example on Saturday, in fact, but let me show you guys again because I'm sure this is a very hard thing to wrap your heads around. So let's try this out. So if we have an enclosing function, I'll just do it this way. It doesn't need anything here. So then I'm just going to put if a condition is true, so this will always run. Then I'm going to do a var and a let. Okay, so then here, if I console log both of these, they will both print out. However, if I do it down here, it's only going to be able to print bar. You guys all see how that works? So I'm going to do this. Then when I run foo, so it's giving me an error here because I'm trying to log bar, and it's saying BAR is not defined. You guys see how that works? So I'm able to do it up here, but I can't do it down here. Everyone see how that works? Sam? So, okay. I know you understand this stuff. So I'm going to Slack this out to you guys. Does everyone see how this is working? Does everyone see the difference between let and var? Okay. Any questions on this? Const is block scope, the same as let. The difference is that it is immutable, right? You can only set it once. You can't change it after it's been set. So I'm going to go ahead and Slack this out to you guys so you'll have it. And those are the only two takeaways from that, right, Jonathan? The hoisting and the var versus let, block versus function scoped. Okay. Okay, good. So any questions on this at all, guys? How come this one just has a solved and not an unsolved, do you know?
Because that's like you going over.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so let's go over the rest of this stuff. So const again is 42. That's the answer to life, the universe, and everything. It will never become 43. It will always be 42. Right, guys?
So there's nothing in 102?
For us, there isn't.
No, because it isn't solved. It's just unsolved. It's a solved example that we'll go over together. Could you Slack this one out to them, Jonathan? I guess so they can see it too. And then also the solved ones from before is fine too. So a const of pets. We're never going to change our pets. Our dog and our cat will live forever. And so it's a constant. Then we're going to log our pets. So pets.pop, free the turtles, but we can't do that. Why? Why will pets.pop not work? Because you can't change an immutable constant, right? So we're going to see what's going to happen here when we log it here and we log it here. Is it going to be different or the same? We're going to do console log pets. Then we're going to do pets.pop, which should take one off of it, but we can't change it, right? So it's just going to stay the same, right? Okay. You guys see how that works? Everyone see how that works? Okay. Now we're going to use a let. Let is what? It is mutable. You can change it, but it is block scoped, not function scoped, right? So we can change it. We can change the 10 to the 12. That part is fine. You guys all see how this stuff works? You good to move on? Want to repeat this again a different way? Yeah.
Variables that are all capitalized, what's the like answer?
Yeah, so that is something people usually do. That is a convention that people usually use, that the immutable variables, the constants, will be pets. That carries over from other languages as well, besides JavaScript. Okay, what do we have next? Redo warm. So yeah, you guys get another chance to play with var and const. Should we skip this one, or do you guys want more practice with this stuff? It seems like we're at a pretty good place with it. Madison, how do you feel? You want to play with it more, or you feel pretty good? Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to skip 103 then and move straight on to 104, which is going to be some ES5 debugging. Let's take a look at what this one says. In this activity, we will fix a small bug in a JavaScript project using ES5 by using constant var. So there's going to be some weird problem with the scope. You're going to have to figure out how to fix it. It doesn't behave as expected. Probably it's some weird problem with function scope versus block scope. Let's take a look at what they want you guys to do. So here, I guess there's something that's not working. It's supposed to append a button. How do you guys want to work on this, individually or as a class? Individually? Yeah, that's okay, but you guys need the practice, so it's good for you. And especially for the people who aren't feeling as strong yet, feel like you need more practice, driving is actually a really good way to sort of cement that stuff into your brain. It is kind of, I mean, you have to come up in front of the whole class and stuff. I get it, it's hard, but it's really not as challenging as it seems like. I'm sure you guys all know how to point and click, but we'll do this one individually. Take 10 minutes. Okay, you guys got 5 minutes for this one. They have a lot of faith in you. You'll do it quickly. Yeah.
So I guess
So there are two different distinctions, right? There's lexical scope versus contextual scope.
because I thought that the scope would run undefined when change the variable inside the function.
Lexical scope.
If you could let, if the variable is defined within the function.
Yeah.
That's the lexical scope change.
Yeah.
Okay.
So lexical scope and contextual scope is one distinction. So difference is lexical scope is what this refers to, and then the contextual scope is what this refers to, and then the lexical scope is what local variables you have within the current scope map you can access from wherever you are in your app. Right? So you could do like if you're inside a function that's a property and the value inside an object, you can do like this, that's some value, you get the property.
They all do the same thing.
That's what you want lexical versus contextual. So when we say contextual, this refers to the context, the lexical scope refers to the local variables that are accessible. So, right, so block scope versus function scope is a different type of distinction. That differentiates between the enclosing blocks that are like if statements or for loops or a function. Most languages are scoped to the block. So if statement encloses, that's standard. JavaScript is more like this, so it was function scope. So the functions are enclosing blocks. So then they changed that to ES6, so now let lets you enclose these just in blocks. So as I showed you, take a look at that if statement. That's basically how it works. A let is limited just to the scope of the if statement, whereas a var goes all the way out to enclosing block.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's very confusing, I know.
Is ES5 the latest version?
ES6 is technically the latest version. ES5 is the latest one that's stable in all browsers. But really very little changed with ES5 and ES4. So sometimes I'll just call it ES4. It is most of ES6, and we can talk about this as a class. There are different implementations. There's also something called ES Harmony in ES 2016, and they started using those terms because some people wanted to implement some features of ES6 and not all of them. So they started, instead of calling it a version like 6, now they're just naming it after the year, or they give it names like Harmony. So it's a little confusing because different people implement different features of it at different times. So it's not like one fixed thing, like Java or something where you have Java 6 and then everything is exactly what Java 6 is supposed to be. It takes a while for the adoption for it to happen. How are you guys doing with that? Did you find the bug? Yeah. Okay, how many tacos did Christian eat? Tamara ate 6 tacos. Okay, so everyone see at least what the problem is here? No matter which of these buttons we click, what's happening? We're getting back the same result. We're getting back the result for Tamer. So let's take a look at this and see if we can figure out as a class what is going on here. For example. Wait, where were we? Okay, tacos.js. var classmate. So did you guys find this bug yet or not? Yes? You got it, Emil? Who else got it? Show of hands. Okay, a lot of you guys got it. So let's go over this. Maybe for some of you who didn't get it, why don't you tell us how far you got? Like, John, do you want to tell us sort of where you are right now with this? What did you try? Did you see what the problem was, that it's giving you the result for Tamer every time? You're able to get, okay. So let's take a look at that. So Madison, do you want to tell us what you did to get to that point? Okay, on line 5, where the for loop is, or here, line 6. This, okay, for the I. Is that going to change anything? Okay, so let's see. When we change this var to I, that was all you did, or you? Yeah. Okay, so let's see what happens here. I don't think this would. Do you think this will change anything, Jonathan? Just changing that var in the for loop to a let?
It changes the scope because then with the var it leaks out and becomes a global.
Yeah, but we're not using it outside of here, are we? No, we're not, right? Add event listener. Oh, right, because it's returning this function, which then gets embedded. So that's why they're all the same. So you guys all with me so far? Who's paying attention? I think we're going to do laptops down. We haven't done this for a while, but I'm feeling it. Everyone, come on, got this. All right, close enough. So, you guys see what's happening here. First, we had this as a var, a VAR, but this is sort of the second problem, and this is the more confusing problem. So me coming in here as a web developer, I would see what the problem is very quickly. We're defining this variable classmate right here, but then we're going to use it again and again and again. So, and when we're defining it, we define it for this whole scope. So we can't reset it if we have VAR here. So the quick, easy way to fix this, even if I were using EOS5, even if I did this at work 10 years ago, I would just say, oh yeah, I'll declare it up here. And then I can just set it down here. So you see what I did? I declared it up here. I got rid of the VAR part. So we're just resetting it down there. Oh, yeah, you're right. We already have classmates defined as classmate. Yes.
Because in different programming languages, that would be a better way to write it, to declare variables above than.
Yeah, in most programming languages. In fact, in JS it is too. You should never declare your variables in the middle of a function or in the middle of a block. Always declare all your variables on top, even if you're not using them. Just leave them undefined, and then when you're ready, you can set a value to them. Yeah, always do that. That's a very important best practice. Good point. Okay, so let's try this now. Now, it's still telling me Tamer ate 6 tacos. That's a lot of tacos. Now it's still telling me Tamer ate 6 tacos. That's a lot of tacos. So that's not doing anything. We'll change this back to let. The reason that it's important to change this let to a block is because if we're function scope, then this function would be the enclosing block, and that sets it to the same thing every time. So the value of this function would become a value. So whatever this I is at the first add event listener, the first iteration will stay the same. So we want it to be I times 2. So whatever number in the list of people, we want the number of tacos they ate to be twice whatever number in line they are. Why that works that way, I don't know. That's just the weird business logic they came up with for this. So if we change this I to a let, then the number updates right every time, as you pointed out, Mass. Right? You guys see how that works? Do you see how that works and why that works? Do you, Madison? Okay. So let me go over this again. If you have var, var is what? Var is block scoped, right? That means it binds to everything that's within this block. For is a block. It's not a function. It's just a block, right? Then a function is a function. It's a block and a function. So that way, the scope of this will stay as part of this function. It will never change because of the way function scope works. And this is a very confusing use case that gets into something called, hang on a second, Nelson. It gets into something called JavaScript closures, which is what happens when you return, when you have a function that returns another function and that function has a value inside it. That's a way people use of preserving value. So that way, even if you change the value of a variable, it gets preserved inside this function enclosure, which is a very confusing way people have of doing things. I wouldn't expect you guys to really get that part now, but that's why this if I is 0, it gets saved as being 0. Or we're setting I as 0, right? So if the tacos are less than 3, then we say they ate a lot of tacos. It's always going to be 6 because it counts all the way up, and then that's what I is set at. So then this function, actually, yeah, that's what's happening. So I goes all the way up to 6 because it's resetting it each time. And then when you fire the onClick event, I is defined out here. So it's going back and finding out what the current value of I is. But each time we've been adding on to the, we've been adding on to the current value of I. So it'll count all the way up to 3, and then I will stay at 3.
So essentially, you said it's Christian 0, CJ 2, Tamarind 4.
Right, 1 should be 0, 1 should be 3, 1 should be 4. So let's see how this works now that we fixed it. And in terms of examples, this is not really the best one to demonstrate. Oh yeah, refresh. Didn't I refresh that? Okay, so Tamara ate 2 tacos. I guess Christian ate 0. Okay, yeah, they're all still saying Tamara. So let's fix that part now too. So let's get rid of this and let's make this a let. Because if we make this let classmate, then it will be binded to the block scope of this for loop, right? And it won't leak out to outside the for loop. So if you guys just have a cursory understanding of how to fix these types of bugs when they pop up, that's basically all you'll really need. You don't really at this point need to get into like philosophizing about, you know, how functions return other functions and all that kind of stuff. Maybe someday you'll get to that point, but for now, just kind of a working knowledge of how this stuff works makes sense. So we can get to an example like this and figure it out pretty quickly because we know let is block scoped, right? So we know we're dealing with an enclosing block here when we see a for loop or an if statement or anything else like that. What are some other examples of enclosing blocks? A catch is a good example, a while loop, a for loop. What other enclosing blocks are there? A do loop. Catch statements, try catch state. Oh yeah, switch statements. Modules, that's a good one. And I guess classes if you're using ES6 classes. Does everyone understand now what this word block scope means?
Anything not encapsulated in a function.
It's anything not encapsulated in a function. It means that the lexical scope binds to the enclosing block of the block, not of the function, which is what most languages do and which is the kind of the sensible way to do it. JavaScript didn't do it this way originally because it came from this language Lisp that does a lot of things very differently than other programming languages. Lisp is more of, it started out as a theoretical language that basically a student got in an argument with his math professor because the math professor said computers will never be able to solve a certain sort of problems where you have expressions evaluating other expressions. And he says, no, I can do that. And he basically figured out how to make Lisp. And that's how we get Lisp. So for that reason, it's very academic. It's very theoretical. So things work in weird kinds of ways. So JavaScript had this one weird sort of hanger-on of function scope. Now they've fixed it and changed it to let with block scope, and a lot of programmers tend to like that better. Does that make sense to everyone? Hopefully it does, and if not, it's not the end of the world. Any questions on let and stuff before you guys move on? Did everyone understand the example that I sent out in Slack with the if statement, the let and the var in the if statement? So basically, we're defining a if statement. We just have the expression we pass into the if statement to evaluate true. True will always evaluate to what? True or false? True is true or false? True will always be true, right? True will never be false, never be anything else. So this is always going to run then. And then so we're letting a value called foo be something. We're letting a value called bar be something else. So we're going to console log foo and bar. When we do this, what happens? It's going to log something and something else, right? Because they're both inside the enclosing block of the if statement. Then when we do it out here, what happened? It gave an error because out here, bar is undefined, right? Because bar is limited to the scope of this block, not the enclosing scope of this function. Foo, it can get fine because that is only limited to the enclosing scope of the function. You guys see how that works? I hope you do. Want me to explain it one more time? Anyone? Anyone at all? Anyone not understand this? Okay, we're going to move on. Sam, are you like feeling okay? Do you want to go home? I mean, you can just, okay. Okay, we're going to jump right into the next exercise. Okay, we're on 105. Now we're going to learn again about string interpolation, right? You guys all remember string interpolation? Okay, awesome. So we have Game of Strings, kind of like Game of Thrones, but they're strings. Oh, it's almost as good. It's a distant second. What if they actually made that a show, Game of Strings, and it was like Game of Thrones? And all the strings die one by one. There are hundreds of strings, and they all die. Okay.
This is actually a good one. This is a great.
Yeah, this is a great thing that they did here. So you guys are going to fix this stuff, make it work. It's just using string interpolation. Basically, you're making template literals where you pass in movie and then the name of a movie. So go ahead and work on this individually. We will take... do you guys want me to introduce template literals again first, or do you pretty much have it? Okay. I will introduce it first to you guys. So what it's asking you to do here, I'll just show you the self versus unself. So we have to do all this crazy stuff here with plus signs. We have a string. We have some information that we know is always going to do the same. You're going to say you have house and then infringed on the blah, blah, blah. So this template is always going to stay the same. The things that are going to change is the name of the defender and the attacker. So we can say the Targaryens attacked the whatever it is, the Lannisters, or the so on, so forth. What is the plot of Game of Thrones? The Targaryens attack. The Lannisters attack the Targaryens, right? I thought, no.
Yeah, the Lannisters, that's the Targaryens and the dragons.
The Targaryens are the dragons. What about in season 1, though? In season 1, the Lannisters killed that other family, right? The Starks.
The Starks, yeah.
Yeah, so the Targaryens attacked the House of the Starks. You guys see how this works?
Cover your ears.
Season 1? Who hasn't watched season 1 at least? If you haven't watched season 1, yeah, you guys aren't going to get through all 7 seasons.
Okay, I'm really good.
Okay, good. So here with our template literals, we're able to do the same thing that we're doing with all these crazy plus signs and stuff to put together the Targaryens and the Lannisters and the Starks. So we can just do this. We're using our backtick template literals, right? You guys remember backtick template literals? They can do way more than your regular strings can. And then we just have the name of an attacker and the name of a defender. So when we have all this stuff together, if we put our defender with a $sign and then curly brackets, it will automatically know to take that value and stick it into our string template. So it'll automatically put together the Targaryens and the Lannisters and all this stuff into our template here. You guys see how this works? And I'm going to slack you out. Well, actually, you guys should be able to just look this up. Just look up JavaScript string interpolation, and you should be able to see an example on Stack Overflow or a bunch of other results. But I'll slack this out too. What is his West Boss? Wait, which one?
It's on the preview page.
This? My talk from Saturday?
No, this one, the thread there. You're right to the right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, that is a great video. I recommend it. Yeah. Okay, you guys have 5 minutes to learn string interpolation. Can you do it?
But the string interpolation doesn't matter if you break a line when you're typing?
No, it doesn't. You're allowed to do that with the string interpolation. That's one of the advantages.
In the example that they have, what did they use to start with?
So these aren't methods. These are string methods.
Yeah.
So this will get you the first letter of the word, the last letter of the word, and so
Yeah, I was reading about it, but where do they use it?
they don't. They're asking you to just research it on your own.
You need the break?
And then, how you don't have to concatenate it anymore. See all this? So that's what's okay. This is not your reservation. Just like you would post it. You don't even need them. And you just need a rack ticket. Oh, that's right, Jonathan?
Yeah, you need the backtick in the front and backtick in the back. That's it.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you were doing that, will it add extra space for all of your indentations?
Yes. Yes, it does preserve all the white space. I think that's actually a good. Does it preserve white space or no, Jonathan? Just let's try it out. Sometimes the best way is just to try stuff out and see. So let's see. If I do, what is it doing? Okay. So I think it does.
Yeah, it does the line breaks and everything.
Yeah, it does. I knew it did the line breaks. I wasn't sure if it preserved white space, but it does. And then I can do some text.trim, and then it will do. No, it doesn't even do that. Huh. Yeah, it preserves all the white space. If I do this dot trim.
Oh, the string cuts off from the beginning and the end.
Oh, yeah, that's why. Yeah, no, I guess all strings preserve white space.
So if you have a line break in it,
Oh, yeah, line breaks, the tick marks do protect. They escape the tick marks automatically. So you can do this. You can do some,
special characters.
yeah, Chinese, Unicode characters, all of that. So this does this. This shows an error. See that? I would have to do.
yeah, so my question
Is what?
if you're using backticks and you are like a few indentations in, and you do an enter, and then if, you're indenting, so
Yes, that is a good point. That will mix you up. So if that's going to be a problem for you, move it down to the next line. No problem. Yeah.
I got a question. What's the function of text colon? It's not like a variable, it's not an object, it's not.
Text colon.
He's
Isn't it
saying
just
there.
defining the text
Yeah.
as staying?
Here. Yeah, it's just a property. It's the properties of the string literal. It's a. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. String literals, when you use tick marks to enclose a string instead of quotation marks, single or double quotation marks are what we used to use, right? They do the same thing. There's no difference between them. When we use the tick marks, you're allowed to put in more special characters that you don't have to escape. And you can also do this thing called string interpolation, where instead of having to use a bunch of plus signs, like we saw in this example, where you're doing the string space house space, plus defender, plus this string, plus this variable. You can do it all in a much neater way using string interpolation like this, where you just put in the variables you want to include wrapped up in curly brackets and then with a $sign in front of it. Okay, so everyone see how this works? Did everyone get theirs to work? Elliot, you didn't get it to work on yours?
I did do that. I just didn't know what text colon was, but it's an object.
Yeah, no, it's a property of an object. So this is an object. It's returning this object. It has three properties. It has the text, which is a template literal. And then it has the attacker property is going to be the attacker, and the defender is the defender. We're setting these up here as constants where we're getting a random house. We're selecting it. Then we pass them in as properties of this object, so that way they'll be in the current scope so that the template literal can use them. Does that make sense? Okay. Madison, what were you saying? You got it to work? Okay. Yeah.
Why do you have to put attacker and defender again in the text?
Because it needs to know where to put them. So the template literal just does things in a slightly easier way, whereas instead of doing something like this, where we have to put plus sign, that just gets kind of annoying. So this does the same thing, but it does include the variables in the same kind of way. You basically just don't have to use the extra plus signs in quotes, which makes it kind of easier when you're programming it, but it works the exact same way. We're saying we have this text house, then we're going to add in the name of the house of the defender, then we're going to add in the name of the attackers. So it works the same way, it's just a slightly easier way of doing it.
Yeah, no, I understand, but at the bottom of the text, where it says attacker.
Oh, and so this is, so it goes into the, so we're defining it up here in this scope, and then we need it basically baked in because it's going to, our function is going to return this object. So it won't work, I guess, if it's not in the scope of the object that we're returning, or maybe it's just going to return it as an object. I think that it might work even without this. It would, because they're defined up here within the scope of this function.
You're right, when you said object literal, Jonathan, that's another one too.
Yeah, there's string literals and then object literals. This is an object literal. It's an object literal and not a representation of an object, or it doesn't say new object. So that's why it's called the object literal. I think this is just the design of the application. I don't really know, but I think for some reason this function is just supposed to return an object that has the text and then also has the attacker and the defender.
So like more const variables, I would have to add them down there in order for them to render out.
Wait, so say that again if you wanted.
For example, because it's all within the same function. So if we take like the 19 and 20, we take those off. Or no, for example, if I add more variables, would I have to add them within the text field, the return field?
Wait, say that again. If you want to add more, like what? Like another.
Just say we had attacker, then we had defender,
and then
we had,
witness,
for example.
right?
If I added inside that text, I would have to call it in
No, you wouldn't have to add it to this. I don't. Is that your question? So if I add it here, witness, and then it's just equals like whatever. No, I could just put like witness in here. Like I could just do that, and that would be fine. The reason. No, and that's kind of confusing. They put it that way. Let's look at the reason why they're doing it. So we're doing play game. This one was called get move. So Yeah, we're just calling move equals get move. We need all three of those properties because we're using them for stuff. So it's going to log the move.text, meaning this attack happened. It tells us which house, blah, blah. Then it's going to get the loser's name. It just gets the loser's name by figuring out, you pass in the move, which is that object that gets returned that has the property for the winner, the loser, and then the house. And then it does, this is honestly like a really bad example, but basically for the template literals, all you have to do is this. You have to put in the names of the variables you want to add into the text wrapped in curly brackets with a $sign in front.
Yeah, because it's all within the same snippet. I didn't figure you have to, you know.
Yeah, they're being extra here. I don't know why. I guess they wanted to give you guys a more kind of complicated example. The important takeaway here is the string literals and template literals, the way they work. So does everyone understand how these work? Mads, you're good with that? You just have the curly brackets with a $sign in front that adds a variable into your text for all the different scenarios when you want to mix together static text with dynamically generated variable text. Make sense, guys? Everyone? Great. Let's move on. Now we're going to talk about the new methods with arrays, which is something that I've tried to prep you guys for, which I think is a really important part of learning to be a good programmer. Like we saw the averaging example, right, from Saturday's class. Everyone remember that, how we did that? Do you guys remember what method of the array we used to get the sum of all the numbers in the array? The reduce function, right? And that takes what as an argument? The reduce function.
It takes
the reduce method, rather. Yeah.
It takes the function of what to do with the running.
Right. It takes an aggregator function, and that function takes two arguments, an accumulator and the current item. So you just add the A to the B, the accumulator to the current item, and then it works. Do you guys have that example still? Yeah, no, I selected out to you guys. Yes, sure do. Where's that?
I don't remember. I was looking for it and I didn't. Just gonna add it to my notes.
Okay, I'll slack it out again. That's weird. I don't know why.
Because you were working on two computers at the time, that's when you were doing it.
Yeah, but I thought, oh well. Anyway. So let's go. This should give you guys some good examples for what to do. It's going to tell you strings aren't the only thing that changed, and he has 6. Arrays changed 2. We have a bunch of new array methods, which are going to be really helpful for you guys. Go through and update each example to utilize the array method specified. Are we going to mob on this one?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it might be good. This might be a good opportunity. So it's going to ask us, who wants to drive? Come on, somebody. Yeah, you guys let Sam drive all the time.
I don't understand what's so intimidating about doing this. You literally turn your brain off.
Yeah, I don't either. You just do it.
Okay, I will stand up.
You can sit. Sam, what's the...
I can't really with this. Maybe I'll move the whole table.
Yeah, it moves. It's pretty movable.
These are also called high order
They are called array methods.
I don't know.
No, I don't really know about array.
Okay.
What that means? I think what that means is it gets a high order of precedence on the call stack where things get executed, so it gets executed more quickly. Okay, so what are we going to tell Sam to do, everyone? Convert the code below to use array methods instead of loops. You'll need to use the filter, reduce, map, and for each method. So we've learned about all of these methods in here. Filter does what? It gets you 1 out of many. What was an example we used in here where I showed you guys filter? What about our Express app we built where we had the different, I think it was like Pokemon or Star Wars characters or something, where they said, If, remember this, guys, where we had the slugs on the routes? Yeah? And they had a really long way to do it where they iterated over the whole list, and then they saw that if the character we requested was in our list of records. Do you remember that one, Elliot? No? You don't remember? You remember it, Mario, right? Do you remember it, Nelson? When we did that? Okay.
But I do remember doing that. I just don't remember.
Okay. Okay, well, we're going to learn about filter first. So the first one, we have a what? What data structure is that for Princess? It's an array of objects, right? And each object has two pieces of data. They have the name, and then they have the age. The name is a string. The age is a what? What data type is age? What? It's a number. JavaScript does not distinguish between integers and floats. So log the name of each princess, followed by a color. Followed by their, and can you turn on WordDrop? Followed by their age. Can be replaced with for each. So how do we replace this with for each, everyone?
I'm gonna comment this out, or is it?
Yeah. Comment
does that
out.
make it more difficult to see?
No, we can see it. So we comment that out. So if we're going to use an array method on an array, what's the first thing that we're going to start with? The array, right? So the name of our array is princesses. So we're going to type princesses. Princesses. Dot for each. Yeah, so you guys are on top of it. Okay, this is a method. What one argument does this method take?
Function.
It takes a function, correct. We can make it an arrow function because we're fancy in ES6 now, and we do arrow functions. Parenthesis, yeah. So what are the two arguments that the function that for each takes? For each takes a function, that function gets two arguments, right? What are they?
Can you can function with just one?
No. Yeah, you can use just the first one, but there are two. So type function, like let's show them the old-fashioned way just so everyone understands. Type function, then parentheses. So there are two things that it gets. The first one is the current item in the array that we're iterating on. Everybody, this is important, so pay attention. It's the current item in the array that we're iterating over, and then the index of that item. So when we use a for loop, we just use the index, right? Then we go back to the array every time and get that item from the array by its index. With for each, we don't have to do that because it'll just give us the current item that we're iterating on. We can just work on that, which in most cases is what we need. We don't need the item next to that one or some other item. We just need this item. So we don't really need the index in this case because we won't be using it. In most cases, we won't use it. So you can get rid of the index. I just wanted to show you guys that was available to you if you did want to use it. So what's the next thing that we have to do? In this thing, all we're doing is one line of code, right? We're console logging, a template literal with the princess name.
Do we want to focus on?
Copy paste that one line of code and be done with this? No, why not?
Oh, yes, you can.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can take console log, yeah, take that, yeah, there you go. The 14 and just copy and paste.
Okay, indent, and we should be done, right? This is going to log the princess's name made for every princess. Let's see what the next thing is. Any questions, guys, on that? On how for each works? Yeah.
This isn't gonna work. That's not.
Yes, it should be item.name.
This isn't gonna work at all. Yeah.
I missed that one. So yeah, item.name, item.name. Since to everyone matters instead of for each. See how that works? So instead of that for loop that's up there, we're basically printing out the name of every princess and her age.
Did we want it to be an arrow function?
Yeah, so we can make it an arrow function. See how that works? Everyone see how we made this into an arrow function? This way, everyone see how...
You don't need
No, you don't
parentheses.
need it if there's only one argument. You
Yeah.
only need the parentheses if there's more than one.
Am I just seeing different from different angles?
No, you're not.
No.
Show her the way with parentheses and then without.
No, I just,
Oh wait,
not
no.
like that, just parentheses around the argument.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so that's what it was, and then this is also correct but unnecessary.
Yeah, so you can do it that way with the parenthesis around the one argument, or if there is only one argument, then it's unnecessary. If you want to have more than one argument, then it is necessary. So then put the index there afterward, comma index, just so you guys can see.
Oh, why?
Everyone see how that's working? So there we have two arguments, so that way we need the parenthesis around. Everyone understands? See how that works? See how that works like? Adrian?
Index is always the second object.
Index is always the second, item is always the first. We can call them whatever we want, we just need to call them in the right order when we pass an argument, same as any other function.
Yeah, like if I were to do this one, just FYI, instead of calling it item, if I'm looping over an array of princesses, I'll do for each princess.
Yeah, you can't call it princess, that's actually
So I
idiomatic.
know what's going on.
Okay, that's what I thought, but
Why do we need to have an index?
yeah.
Well, you don't need it, but
It's-
that is available
That's what I
to you
thought.
in the mechanism, in this mechanism of for each.
Yeah.
I'm showing. For this example, we don't need it, for most examples, you won't. I'm just showing you guys this guy.
Okay, so the next one.
Okay, next one, we're gonna create an array of princess names from an existing array. So this uses map, right? Have you talked about map for use yet in this class? Map, yeah, we have? Yeah, okay. So Madison, can you remember how it works? Okay, Jackie, do you remember?
It's the array dot map and then.
Yeah, but how do we? Okay, so
Wait.
here's what I was getting at. For map and reduce
Who wrote
is
this?
a very common way people have of getting through big amounts of data. Have you all heard of big data? You know what that is? Right. So with big data, we need to. Nelson, you need to look right here. You never heard that? Big data. So basically, what big data means is that there's a lot of data out there available about people, what their habits are, what their behaviors are, what they do. Think about all the marketing data that gets collected about you. Facebook, from various advertisers, from Google Ads. There's a whole lot of data out there that businesses have that can get them valuable insights on how to do their business, on how to change things so they can make more money. So for this reason, this whole field of big data has become very, very valuable. So in big data, they need a way to get through all this data quickly. They have petabytes of data they need to crunch the numbers on to get through. So they found this methodology called MapReduce, where basically first you take out the relevant bits of information, then you aggregate them. So say I want to get the average age of my customer. I might have a database of customer info that has their name, their age, all kinds of things about them, right? And there might be millions of customers. So all I need to know is their age. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to map. So I'm going to go through each customer record and I'm going to take the age out. And I'm going to put that in a new record, in a new collection. Because that's the only piece of information that I care about. So I shouldn't be wasting computing resources on this stuff that is irrelevant, right? So I take all of the ages, I put them in their own array. That's the map part. Then the reduce part is to reduce it all down to one aggregate sum. So that would be the sum of all of the ages, and then I would average them. So you end up with the average age, which is what we really care about. But if I were to go over every record and get the age and then average it, it would take longer. It makes more sense to pull out the relevant information first and then aggregate. So that's what MapReduce means. And JavaScript has these two methods called map and reduce. So that might be on a job interview question. That's an important thing. But for here, we're just going to map. So we just want to take out the relevant pieces of information. The relevant piece of information we want about each princess is what? Their names, right? So
Isn't this wrong that they called the array a constant?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes, it is. So let's comment all of that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's how we're going to do this. The first thing that we're going to need is our new array of names, right? So we can use let or var, which one do you guys want to do? Or we could even do it as a const almost. Yeah, we could do it as a const. Want to do it as a const? Let's do it as a const. Okay, const, princess names. Oh yeah, that's true. Then we'll have to read.
Is this Disney princess?
I mean, there might be a new English.
I saw Mulan. I don't remember what the other ones are. Yeah, they're Disney princesses.
Rapunzel? Is there a Disney Rapunzel? Those aren't Disney?
Yeah, she's from Tangled.
Oh yeah, Tangled. Sorry, I'm so out of it.
I just realized Tangled is not called Rapunzel.
Okay, so princess names.
So we need to erase the names. Yeah, put a bracket in the names.
No, incorrect.
We're gonna put brackets?
No, we're gonna start with the old princess names, right? So in order to map onto an array, use the array method of map. We start with what? Same as last time. Princesses, right? The name of the array we're gonna operate on, and then map. Map, and this takes as an argument what? A function. Who said a function? What's that? It takes a function. Just like map, for each map, reduce, and filter all take functions. So that makes it really easy for you. Pretty much all the array methods take reduce functions.
So we're going to do a traditional function first?
Yeah, let's do the transitional function first so everyone can see, and then we'll go to the arrow. So this one takes 3 arguments. You know what they are? You guys want to guess? And so does the other one, actually. All of them pretty much take 3 arguments. So the first one is the current item. The second one is the index, and the third one is the actual array that we're operating on, if we want to do any operations on the array. So the only one that we'll really be using, though, is item. Or a princess. We can call it princess.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. And then all we want to do here is return princess.name. And then this will give us a new array with just the relevant information we need, which is what? Right?
This is going to be really cool to convert to an arrow function.
Yeah, so somebody tell Sam how to convert this to an arrow function.
The name function in the parentheses and then parentheses can bring us arrow.
Wait, you deleted one more.
Oh, that's all you need. Is that, and then we don't need what else can we get rid of? Best. Yeah, 2 other things we can get rid of: the curly brackets and the return, right? Because they return as implicit of one line.
Oops. Yeah.
Yeah, that curly bracket. Now it all fits on one line. See how nice that is? Awesome. Everyone see how this is working? We're pulling out the relevant pieces of information out of our one array of objects, right? And we're just going to make a new array, which is just the numbers of or just the strings of names. Any questions on that? Everyone can see how that works? Anyone unclear still?
This is readable. This is readable code.
Yeah, so you understand what's happening or no? Okay. Somebody help Fabian understand. Can you explain?
Well, we need to understand what Fabian doesn't understand first before we actually start running.
How it works, what we're doing, the map.
So we're creating a constant up at top. Can Sammy go up, please? There's a constant called princesses with an array of objects. And the key value pairs is name and age. Now, Sam? Huh?
Just giving him the example from the original.
Sorry. So on line 27, we're creating a new constant with princess name, and we're using the map method, which the definition of map method is that creates a new array with the results calling a provided function of every element in this array. So we're doing a new ES6 function arrow, or otherwise a fat arrow, to be politically correct. And then it's calling the princess, and then we're getting back the princess.name.
Making a new array.
Yeah, so we'll get that.
Fabian, do you understand?
Now we have the array of objects that has the princess name and then age. we just care about the names now. So what we're doing is we're pulling out each name and it's going to make it into an array just of the names with no object. So it'll just be like, Rapunzel, comma, Snow White, comma, Cinderella, whatever.
So Jonathan, that,
Yeah, it's cleaner and.
that princess names is gonna be another array, just the names.
Yeah, just the names, no objects or anything else. Like you're having an array of objects that is a name.
It takes the same order the original array has.
Less space.
It takes the same what?
Order.
The same order, yeah, the order. That's a good question.
Eddie last time.
Okay, I think we're good, right? Any other Pedro, how are you doing? Feeling okay?
But I have to review the file.
Okay, pay attention, guys. This stuff is important. It's good to hear.
Oh, jeez, we got a lot.
All right, so we're going to do the next one. Here we're going to be using the names array. So we were supposed to call it names and not princess names, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah, change it to just names. So using the names array,
They're being princesses.
get only those names that start with an M. So, okay, so that's fine. So we'll call this one names that start with M, or M names, as they call it. So we can just leave.
We could use the, is that the end, starts with?
No,
it's gonna be the same thing.
no, it's not. This is going to be filter.
Well, you can if you wanted to.
No, those are string methods that we just learned, not array methods. The starts with is a string method. It only works on strings. Okay, so comment that. And then we're going to want the const M names, so just comment that. Guys, are you all paying attention?
What do you say you have these on strings?
That starts with.
Is it a name of
If you have an array of strings, you could do.
Literally use it starts
Starts, no, you do starts with, and that's it, and it will give you back M. It doesn't give you a true or false, it does start with that thing. So it just gives you, yeah, so it just gives you the letter that starts with. It gives you the first letter. So,
Are we gonna filter?
yeah, we're gonna filter, and what are we filtering? What array are we filtering, guys?
The name.
Not princesses. We're filtering the names of princesses, so it's names. Yeah, M names. So M names is going to be, so the next thing we're going to type is what? Names, right? Because we're going to filter on names. You guys all see how this works? Names is the name of the array that we just created. That is just the princess names. You guys all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we do filter. Exactly. Thanks, Mel.
Not filter.
Takes one argument. What is it? What value does it take? What argument? Same as the other two. Same as for each. Same as map. Same as reduce.
The item.
No, well, the item is an
Right.
argument of that thing, but first this method takes a function as an argument, right? This is our mutator function. This is called a mutator function. It takes our mutator function.
So just copy and.
Well, no, we'll do it as a function first so that everyone can see. I like doing it this way. But you see that? It takes one argument. That argument has to be a function. This function takes basically one argument. It can take more. It takes actually the same three. So it's item.
Can it take the element in this situation or not? No, never mind.
You mean an
Okay,
HTML
okay.
element?
No, never mind. Just, yeah, I said that.
Yeah, you're thinking
I've been
of like
upstairs
JSON.
already.
Yeah, no, you're kind of on the right track. Just stay with us. So item index array. Again, guys, you guys understand what these three things are? The
Question.
item is the current. It's so wait, hold on.
Yeah.
So Fabian, if we have an array of princess names, we're going to names is the array. Then we're doing this dot filter. We're using this to filter out the princess names that start with an M and only those, right? So what we do is we use the names dot filter. Names is our array of the princess methods. Then dot filter is the method that we're using. This takes one function as an argument. This function will determine which princesses it filters out and which princesses it keeps. The function will only return the princesses we want. So this takes the three arguments. It takes item. That's going to be the current princess. So if we're on Rapunzel, the item is going to equal what, guys? Rapunzel, right? If Rapunzel is the first item in the list, then the index will be what?
Zero.
Right? And then the array is going to be what? No, it's going to be the whole array of princess names. We have that available to us if we need that for some reason in our algorithm.
So the third argument is it's not the target array, it's the array that we
That
are
we're starting
filtering.
with. Yeah.
Okay.
So we only need item though, because we only care about the princess names. We don't care what order they're in. Or you could call it name. Yeah, that's fine to do it that way too. In fact, that's better than my way. So we're gonna only want to return true if what?
Is it the first name?
Is it the name?
First initial?
Is the first letter of the name. So we're gonna return name. What is the method to get the first letter of the string? That starts with.
What did I do? No.
Hit page down.
Okay.
You can always hit page up, but you're right there.
Yeah. Okay.
I do that almost. Starts with
It's a very conveniently placed button.
uppercase M. Outside the parentheses, pipe, and then do the same for lowercase m. Name just starts with lowercase m.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys know that pipe is a or, right? So we're going to return. Does it start with a lowercase m or does it start with an uppercase m? So if either of these things are true, we're going to return true. Oh no, we can't do it this way.
Yeah, we can.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that's fine. So what's the easier way? How can we make this better now?
Give it a curly bracket and an function, a parentheses.
Yeah, give it. Okay, so yeah, let's make it an arrow function, right? So that way we don't need to return, we don't need the curly brackets. You see how this part is working, Fabian? We're using the arrow function. So we can just write the function in a more concise.
Is there some sort of thing about reading left to right here, or will this work the way we want it to?
No, it'll work.
Okay.
I think it'll work the way we want. I don't.
You know how, like-
the or, because look, it's gonna say return either the true for the M or the other true. Yeah, I think this will work. We're gonna test everything out when we're done, but I'm pretty sure this will work.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next thing. What is it asking us to do here?
Get a single value from the data, the average age of all of the princesses.
Okay, the average age, the same thing that I keep talking to you guys about. So how do we do this? With reduce to get the sum, right? And then once we get the sum, what do we divide by to get the average?
The array.
The array, right? So
Length of the array.
what is this variable going to be called? Average. So we just need average, right? We don't need to do all the crazy stuff they're doing with 3 extra variables that we don't need for length and blah blah. So const average.
Should I, for the other one, should I do a console, just get this console log and...
Yeah, let's console log all of this stuff so we can see that it works.
Just realized. And should we do this as a string literal?
The princess names too. Do it for all of the ones that we've done so far.
Should we do this as a string literal?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
No, just leave it like that. Okay, console log the other things too that we're missing, like there. Move that down to the next line.
Okay, and I think
And then princesses that for each too. There's a console.
this one we console logged for each, so we don't need to worry
Okay. Okay, so we're good. Okay. So average equals. So somebody tell them how to do it. Mario? No.
Our average equals,
Const average.
and do we do the princess dot length somewhere? Dot reduce?
Are we mapping?
Yeah, so we can map and then reduce. That's the correct way to do it. So we're gonna do princesses.
Dot map?
Because I want you guys to get more practice seeing how this stuff. Map takes one argument. What is it, everyone? A function, right? Everyone get that part right now?
Reduce, filter, map, need a function.
Function?
Reduce, filter,
Do-
map for each.
do it as an arrow function. Or do we want to do it as a regular
Let's do
function?
it as a regular
Okay,
function again. I want
Okay.
to repetition.
Okay.
Okay, so Matt, how do we get out just the relevant information here, Jackie?
So we're getting
What do I
the average, so do
put
we
in
do the,
First, we need the
The
age. So we have, as I explained, when we have records or customers or princesses or whatever, we have a bunch of information. Not all of it is relevant to what we're trying to get. The answer we're trying to get is what is the average age, right? So do the names of the princesses matter to get their average age? No, right? We
I don't need
that
to
information.
young.
We just need what?
I just
The age, right? So we need to make an array of just their ages. And to do that, we use math.
right, and we gotta put age as the argument.
Right. Well, no, the argument is going to be
Incorrect.
the princess, right? We're going to go over each princess and we're going to get their age. So each thing there, this thing is the item where the current item we're iterating on. The array is an array of objects. So the item we're iterating on is the current princess object. You guys see how that works? Okay. Then we're going to return what piece of information do we want about the princess again, everyone? Their age, right? So we're going to return what? Princess.age. Okay, how do we make this cleaner, neater? Okay, yeah, well, we'll get rid of everything but.
So we're still gonna get the average, right?
Yeah, we gotta get the average. So first, this is the math reduce
Right.
functionality. So first, we're gonna
So-
get the.
this whole thing. This whole thing
It's just to get the
is
sum,
an array
or
of
just to get the ages. It's gonna be an array
Yeah.
of numbers.
the ages. So
the
what are we gonna do to that?
No, we have one more step we need to do. Now we have an array of all the ages. We need to do what? Sum them, right? So how did we do that, everyone?
Is there a method for doing that?
Yeah, we talked about it. What is it, everyone? We talked about it in class. It's reduce.
Reducto.
Right? Reduce is to get an aggregate. It could be a sum, it could be some other type of aggregate, but it's always going to be an aggregate. They're different aggregate functions. Some of them are more complicated than just a sum. Here we're just doing a simple sum. So we can just chain up.
What an aggregate function is?
What an aggregate is, an aggregate converts a group of numbers into one number. So it's usually going to be like an average or something like that. So you have like a long list of numbers, and then you have some bit of logic that you're going to use to convert it all to one number. Typically it's an average, but it can be much more complicated math than some people.
Yeah, so it's basically I have a whole bunch of things and I want to put in some logic of how to take all of those things and make them just one thing, is what the reduce is. That's why it's called reduce.
Right. You could, for instance, just get a sum. If their age is less than 65, then you'll add it to the sum or something. You could do that if you wanted to, or have any type
So
of
it's
logic
something
wanted
that
to.
you take little pieces and you start putting them
Yeah,
together.
you push them together, so that way it becomes one piece of information. Because when you have an average, if you have 100 people that are different ages, you look at that, it's very hard to gain intelligence from. You average them together, you can start to see, okay, most people are about 27, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
No, I understand the math where I didn't understand the terminology.
Yeah. No, that's a good question, and that's a good thing to know. Okay, so.
Probably.
No, this is just for arrays. These methods, for
Really?
each filter, map, reduce, will
Yeah,
just
but
use
he's asking
arrays.
if you have like an array of strings, will it?
Oh, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can do it with strings, you can do it with objects, arrays, you can put together other arrays. It's just you're taking a list of something, whether it's a string, whether it's a number, and then you're pushing it all together. So
Wait,
it has
John-
many inputs, and then you can do one output. basically.
Could, on that logic, could we use just the dot reduce to, and in the dot reduce, take each princess and just
Yes,
add a
that's
name?
the easier way to do it. We'll do
Okay,
it both
yep,
ways. I'm
anyway.
showing you guys this way because this is the preferred way to do it. This way uses less resources. So if you were doing this, real big data problem where you had like petabytes of customer records and you needed to find the average age, it would run a lot faster if you did this first. First you pull out the relevant piece of information, the age, then you get the aggregate. So this is the way that basically people do it professionally. We don't really need it for this one. We just have 3 princesses. There's something we don't do. You guys see how that works? Okay. So let's chain on the reduce now so they can see how this works. So these functions are chainable, as you can see. So this returns a result. What is it returning when we do the math? What do we get back? We get back an array of ages, right? And then we're going to operate on that array of ages. We're going to reduce it and get the sum. So this takes one argument. It's an age. And then we're going to do what? So this reduce function actually is different in terms of the arguments that it takes than the others. It takes first an accumulator and then the current item that we're iterating on the age. So first is accumulator. Sam?
No, before the function.
No, he's got it right. Yeah, comma, age. So the reason we have an accumulator is it's accumulating the result as we're going through it. So if one age is 8 and another age is 9, it's going to add them together. That's what? 17. So the accumulator is at 17. Now the next age is going to be what? 5 maybe. So we add that on, and then that becomes our accumulator. You guys see how that works?
Yeah, so it takes all the elements of the array and it performs an operation and stores them in the accumulator.
In the accumulator, exactly. Okay, so what is the one thing that we need to do here? The one line of code. We're going to do what with the accumulator and the age? We're going to add them. We add the accumulator and the age together. So it's going to be return accumulator plus age. And then we can, of course, refactor this to an arrow function so it's easier to read.
But that's going to return the sum of all the ages, right?
Yeah, that returns the sum of all the ages. So it starts out the accumulator is 0. Then so the first number is 9, then we do 0 plus 9. That's what, 9. And the next number is 5. So then we add on the 5. We're at 14. And so on. So it just keeps going like that. Okay, so let's turn it into an arrow function. We all know how that works. Okay, the one extra curly bracket. Yeah. And then maybe move map down to the next line too, so that'll make it a little bit easier to read. Okay, everyone see how this works so far? So we pull out the relevant information. We
just so we're clear, I just want to make sure that I got the right answer to my question. If I did this instead.
Okay, we are a little bit behind on.
Maybe I'll. I got it for here. Princess, and this will be accumulator plus princess age. All right. So you're saying that this wouldn't work as well as the other one.
Yeah, this one, the first one is just more memory.
Okay.
That's why it's a better way to. So that should you guys think.
Okay, making sure.
Did everyone see that? What he just did? So you don't need, okay, put that back. So what he's saying is this first step that I'm telling you guys to take, first we pull out the relevant bits of information, and then we aggregate them, then we divide. That's not necessary. It'll work this way when we just do the reduce without the map. What's the disadvantage to doing it this way? It's slower, right? Because we get everything in the array, so it's slower. So if we were actually doing this on a big data, if we had, instead of 5 princesses, if we had a list of big database with thousands of customers, it would be a lot slower.
I just realized, yeah, we need to do that.
I was about to tell you that. Okay, so does everyone see how this works? We don't need the first step of pulling out the relevant information. We could just go through each record and do it all together. This is just the better way to do it than map and reduce. That is on Java trivia questions, so I want to know it. Okay, let's do the bonus, and we got to hurry. So bonus, get the average age of all princesses whose name includes an L. So here.
That's a bonus, right?
Yeah, here, I'll do it for you guys real quick.
You want me to just do it?
No, I'll just do it.
Okay.
Yay, Sam. Good job, good job. Okay, so for this one, we're just going to do the same thing here, but we're going to add the extra step of we'll only map it if the name starts with an L. So const L names. L names equals princesses dot map. And then I can just use a ternary expression here to make it easier. And I'm going to say if princess, what are we checking for? If the princess's name contains an L?
Yes.
If princess, if it includes an L. So how do I figure out if a string includes a letter? Anybody remember? Index of is the best, is the easiest way, yeah. So if princess.name.index includes, oh, is that one of the new ES6 methods you guys just learned?
From the last example, yeah.
I guess we could, but we'll just do index of since it's easy, since I know it. Includes index of, yeah, I'm not familiar with that. So we do index of L is greater than 0. Why? Because if it's not in the string, it returns a -1. If it's the first item in the string, then it's what? 0, right? So if it's greater than -1, yeah, sorry, you're absolutely right. So if it's greater than -1, so this is the ternary expression, right? Then we return princess.age. If it's not, we return 0. So now we have an array of either the ages of the princesses that have an L in their name or 0 for all the ones that don't, right? And then when we get the average, it'll be the same thing as just averaging the princess ages with the L's in their names. You guys see how that works? So if the princess has an L in their name, it'll add their age to the array. If they don't have the L in their name, it'll add a 0 to the array.
That'll mess up your average.
Oh, that will mess up the average. You're absolutely right. No, it won't. Because we're dividing by princesses dot length, not the length of the array of princesses with no L in their name.
You said that it would add a 0 to the array if the princess doesn't have
the array of the princess names, but we use the length of the regular princess array that we started with when we divide. Oh, no, we need the average. Yeah, you're right. We need the average of just the names of the princesses with L's in their names.
without populating a 0.
Yeah, so we have to do this in 2 steps. So L names is going to be, so instead of doing a turn, all I really have to do here is this. L names equals princesses if, so instead of using a ternary, then I'm just going to use an if princess dot name dot index of L then and only then do we add the princess age 0. If not, it won't add anything to the array. So then we have our L names. We're going to stop here. Then we do the L names dot reduce. And here we'll just make a new const and call it L names av for average, right? And then we do L names dot reduce blah blah blah, and then we divide it by L names dot length, and that's how we do that. Do you guys sort of see how that works? Okay, we have a lot to get through, so I want to move on. You guys will have the solved example. We can see how they did theirs. It might be a little bit different too. Looks like it's pretty much the same. They didn't do the map part before the reduce. As we did, they also didn't use arrow functions, but it's pretty much the same, right? So if this stuff doesn't, can I slack out this one? Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you guys can break now. We're going to come back and learn React stuff. Actually, let's do this.
Sorry.
I am not sorry. Hey. So
I wanted to show you before I send it, just my response.
Sure.
Thank you for the consideration.
Yeah.
I looked into like their website.
Yeah. Take a look at their website. Just talk to them about it. I mean, I'm sure you'll do fine. Just you know.
Do you still need my resume, or do I just send it?
No, send it.
So only.
I want to try it.
Gets these fish.
You sure it's so good?
I'm gonna put the fish in there and then all vegan except for.
Yeah, I don't really like that.
Okay, yeah, well, you can pick the root. There's pineapple, there's a little bit of homegrown poblano
I'm
pepper.
really just curious.
Yeah, go for the fish.
That was really good.
Yeah, I didn't realize that people cleaned out the rest of the fish, so it's literally just fruit salad with onion and peppers.
At least I got to try lionfish.
Actually, on Thursday, I could bring the electric skillet and make macadamia coconut crusted lionfish.
Oh, or just make ceviche and don't eat it.
Well, I could do that as well if tomorrow goes well. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Doing another rec.
Awesome. Oh, a rec tour?
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm doing a diving a wreck first and then a reef. And we'll see what happens.
What kind of wreck? Is it a sailboat? Or?
It's
like an old one?
It's not like a wooden sailboat.
Oh,
it's
no.
like a RSB-1 wreck.
Is there places you can go to see like Spanish ships and stuff?
I know that in the Great Lakes they're so cold. There are no microorganisms in the water, and you have old wooden ships from when they made old wooden ships.
But they don't still have any around here? Like
no, not here. If
really?
If
So
they
that's like
did
a-
exist, at one point they don't now, because of how much stuff is in the water that has broken them.
Really? But didn't you ever see that one Matthew McConaughey movie where it's like him and his girlfriend have been hunting for the Spanish treasure ship and they find it?
That's
Yeah,
probably about as accurate as that 47 meters down movie, which is to say not at all accurate. Okay, the RSB-1 is a 160-foot long tender. Was built in 1966 and was used as an oil company tender in 1971. It was purchased by the Navy. She eventually wound it. No tiene pescado. So, is that she eventually wound up with the Pompano Fishing Rodeo and Broward County Artificial Reef Program. RSB-1 was renamed to the Jim Torgerson after
Yes.
There's a bunch of pineapple. They're made that right there is mango. Like, that was similar to the Moscow. There may also be a bit of.
Well, okay, take your time there.
This is all. There's a tiny bit of avocado.
Really good.
Wait, I know it's more. Yeah,
It's pretty cool, and Whole
Did you use
Foods.
lemon juice or?
It was a mixture of lime juice, and I actually took a can of pineapple tidbits in pineapple juice. You know how like some of the cans are like stored in syrup, and some of them say 100% pineapple juice. I took that can and I literally just
Oh, that's good.
the entire thing. So fruit juice is acidic.
Yeah, it's got a good, like not too sweet, not too tangy.
Yeah. I put like garlic salt in there.
It was good, and it takes an hour. You cut up the fillets, you put it in there, and an hour later, it's
it's created.
It's
That's
the-
the only
Yeah.
You can one page, you just don't have the buttons, don't you?
Yeah, so that was fun. Here's what it looked like when I just finished. It was so good. So I still have a bunch of fillets. I was expecting to make another dish yesterday, and then everyone just kind of poo-pooed the idea in favor of pizza. So whatever.
This is a bunch of play, but it's technically the play.
Are they hard?
There's like it depends on how
Let me see.
how experienced you are. I guess that's with anything.
Is it
But,
connected to database at all?
when I teach my lionfish class, I tell people to snip off the spines with C snips. They're basically surgical shears. And then once you've done that,
Well, that's what you should.
they're venomous.
Oh, yeah.
They have 18 venomous spines, and in my class, I teach like where the spines are, and as long as you know where they are. Like when I catch lionfish, I don't snip the spines off because I know where they are and I just avoid them. But with my students, especially when
So you have to.
I teach a class through a training organization, and there's no way they would have approved the class if there were any safety concerns. So in my class, I say you have to bring a puncture-proof container, which they like sell these like PVC pipe things.
Yeah.
You have to bring it. It's required for the class.
I didn't put anything in the
Basically, you just.
Don't mess. You spear the fish,
text
go straight in
out
the container.
to the left,
The containers they make them so that
no
you
space,
can
no-
push the fish, the spear with the fish on the end, and pull it out. And
So
the,
this was, you have to, first of all, IPM.
well, you can put other stuff in there too, but they're designed for lionfish. Mostly for other fish, people don't bother with that. It's like
Yeah,
over.
Local already has.
So yeah, so like I require that, and then I say you come up, you open the container, you empty it into a cooler vise. Cooler vise is also required safety equipment. And then once they
You can
have
set it up. I
expired
don't have mine set up.
on the ice,
You can set it up.
then you mess with them, and you cut the spines off. And then once you cut the spines off, then there's your.
No, you just let the ice in the air.
I just put them on the ice, and then they'll eventually go to sleep.
Interesting. I want to try it sometime. I wish I had
This
one.
part down here, can you read it?
Trust me, I've spent.
Yeah, you can get rid of that part at the end and make sure that
Most.
in your .env you set MongoDB just like that. But leave that where it works because you're gonna need to use it on that file. Like you just delete after the order.
So, this.
I just got a dry suit.
Cut that and paste it in.
Yeah, you told me that. Or no, you told me you got a new wetsuit. I thought.
Well, I just ordered a dry. Oh, was I talking about the tiger shark print one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just bought a dry suit, which is like they're designed. So wetsuits are designed so that water gets in and your body heats it up and it gets trapped in there and it serves as an insulating layer. But you still get wet and
And then this
the water will still eventually chill you out. A dry suit. It has seals around the neck and the wrists, and you inflate it from your tank, and you stay dry. And there's a layer of air between you and the water, and air conducts heat a lot slower. So, yeah, so I got a dry suit. I tried it on earlier today.
Do you need that here?
So for regular recreational diving, probably not. But when I do tech diving, you're in the water for over an hour and not moving for half of it. Half of it, we do what's called decompression, and we just sit there for like half an hour, just waiting for
gas to move around and stuff.
Oh,
So
you have
you
to
get
that, or
really-
is that just to show like how you-
It's for like deeper dives. So in scuba, what happens is the nitrogen the gas that you're breathing is compressed. It comes out at the ambient pressure.
Right.
So,
I
like,
mean, I know you can get like the bends and everything.
Yeah, so the bends is basically you have too much nitrogen. You build up nitrogen in your body, and you come up, and the nitrogen bubbles in your body expand to become too big, and they cause problems. So, like if they get caught in your joints, that's one place that they tend to gather. So people who get the bends often complain of joint pain.
Oh.
It can kill you, but it'll take a lot. Like you have to have really screw it up in order for it to kill you. But mostly it'll just make
put you
you.
in a decompression chamber.
Yeah.
To like recompress
Yeah.
everything. And
That costs a few $1,000.
Yeah, but it's worth. I mean,
Yeah, but usually what'll happen is you'll just feel real nauseous, headache, all that stuff, and
No, you already have this one.
okay, so for really deep diving, the deeper you go, the faster you build up nitrogen in your body. So eventually, like it gets to the point where if you want to dive to a certain depth, you have like
wait.
2
But why
minutes.
does the nitrogen build at high pressure?
So the air that you breathe from the tank comes out at the ambient pressure.
Right.
That's the only way that it would work. Otherwise, your lungs you just wouldn't.
The
be able to-
ambient pressure of
Yeah.
whatever depth you're at.
Yeah. So if, for instance, if you go down to 100 feet, that's 4 times the pressure. Every 33 feet, you add another atmosphere of pressure.
Oh wow!
Um,
Really? I didn't notice that.
Because water weighs more. So we're under pressure right now, and it's 1 atmosphere of pressure that's caused by the weight of all of the air pushing
Oh, okay.
down.
So that's what an atmosphere is.
That's
all
what
of
it is. The pressure that's equal to all of the pressure of the entire Earth's atmosphere pushing down. So every 33 feet, you add another one of those. So if you go down to 100 feet, that's 3 additional atmospheres of pressure for a total of 4. So the gas that you're breathing, every breath that you take has the same amount of stuff as 4 breaths. But it's all compressed into the same size of 1 breath.
Does that mean you take smaller breaths?
So you breathe like normal, just
But you're getting more oxygen.
so you're getting more oxygen and you're also getting more nitrogen,
Both.
and so you'll be adding more compressed gas to your body that wouldn't normally be there under 1 atmosphere.
Right.
So we have
Does it
fancy.
do that automatically, or does it do some type of apparatus to do that too? To go deeper?
No, these have pressure sensors in them.
Oh, okay.
So-
And then you're adjusting your tank manually to whatever the pressure.
No, the regulator is designed to be balanced, balanced against the ambient pressure. So it'll deliver. Actually, the second state. So anyway, it's balanced so that it delivers the air at the ambient pressure. So it sounds complicated.
We gotta get started.
Yeah, it sounds complicated. All you gotta do is breathe in, and it feels just like.
Would anyone like to get the people outside?
Estamos empezando, hombres y mujeres. No sé cómo
Do you recognize this other?
Afternoon wave is going to say for that.
I don't know this one.
Estamos
This is not how
Yeah. How was the tartar or whatever?
Ceviche?
I looked in there and realized that one they got all the 2 pieces of lime.
I got to try the 2 pieces.
Oh.
There's still some like fruit and stuff.
I don't have literally.
Tartare is just your steak tartare. That's well, it's French instead of South American. That's one difference. And then it's tartare is cut up into smaller pieces. I think like steak tartare is little tiny bits.
Yeah, the lime and the vinegar.
It cooks. The fish cooks in the acidity of the lime or the vinegar or whatever it is. You use some type of acidic juice or something, and it cooks the fish, so it actually turns white and stuff. Tartare is raw, but there's no acid or anything to cook it. It's just raw. Okay, guys, we're going to stop talking about food because I'm hungry. Yes, you can. Somebody can.
I would definitely just turn them all off first.
Okay, I don't really care. All the way off is good. You guys can go to sleep.
I would make a mistake and like.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I've done that before. Okay, everyone. So we have an exercise on arrow functions. You guys feel like you need to do this because we have a lot of other stuff to get through. We pretty much know how to use arrow functions, right? Then we're going to. Okay, so the next quick thing we have to show you is object constructors. Hopefully, you guys remember this from our Saturday class, so we don't have to spend too much time going over it because we got a lot of other important stuff to do. So, we have this deconstructing assignment, or spread operator, as we call it. Anyone remember what this does?
Okay, I'm just gonna.
And it puts it into the current array, right? Okay. I think we're good with that. You guys can come back to a lot of this ES6 stuff. So now we're on to a component. Okay, because this is 109. So how do I get to, Jonathan, how do I get to the intro to import and then transpilers? Exercise 21 on the time tracker. There's that, and then the one on ES 2015 modules, Babel setup, transpilers. Where's all this?
Number 111.
111.
Is that
110 ES 2015 modules. Prop scout. What is it? In this, we'll create a component that does. Let's see what are they doing.
Oh wait, 111 should be no.
Yeah, this is 11, right?
111.
111. Yeah, but where is the organizational improvements for import? Intro to import.
That's 111. Like that's.
No, that's not ES. No, that should be the next one.
No. See, right here.
Look, no, look. ES 2015 modules is different. That's down here.
That's just to look at 111.
Oh, okay.
So let me look at.
Okay, I think we're good. We'll just get through all this stuff. They make it too confusing. Yeah, we're good. We're just gonna get started.
Okay. Are you gonna go into Babel?
Yeah, we will. We definitely will. So, students, you have a to-do. It's in the unsolved files that we sent out. This is going to tell you how to set up Babel. You can do this at home, or we may get into it later today. If we have an exercise, just be mindful that this is here for you. You will need to set up Babel. We talked about what Babel does. It's a transpiler, right? It converts your ES6 back into ES4. So you can do it a few different ways. For now, Jackie, your browser plugin way is fine because we haven't learned Grunt or Gulp yet. Yeah, so the browser plugin is good. Run it any way you want to. We're going to teach you guys a better way to do it where it does everything together. It'll do the less, the SAS, the all of the different compilations you need all together using the task runners, Grunt and Gulp. But we're not going to learn that now. So you can get a plugin for your text editor to run Babel transformations for you, or you can do it the way that they're telling you to do it here, where you basically use NPM to install it. So I want all of you guys to do that for your homework before Thursday, okay? set up Babel. Use these instructions that are included in the unsolved examples that we slacked out.
The methods or just pick one?
It's going to tell you which ones we need. So for now, you're going to use Babel CLI, Babel preset environment, preset stage 2. So just do what they tell you to do, basically, for now. I think you're just going to be converting. This is just the basic transformation of ES6 back to ES5. So yeah, everyone just do that at home. Let me know if you have any questions on it. I think, or we'll look at what else they have in store for us. So this one is showing us basically how import works. Who remembers learning about import on Saturday? Few of you. Okay. So one of the people who do remember want to tell the rest of the classmates what this does?
It's the front end equivalent of require.
Yes and no. So we use, no, that would be a no. Nelson. It imports the modules. It does the same thing as require. Require also imports the modules. And these both work in Node and on the front end if the front end is using ES6, but only if your front end is using ES6. So the way this is different is this imports from the modules only what you want it to import, because sometimes we don't want to use all of a module. We just want one or two methods from a module. So we're importing a module called before remove, and the only thing that we need from it is before remove. Yeah, Mario.
I have a question. Is that only from the module.exports or from the whole module?
It is only from what the module exports. That's a good question.
Well, that could be your NPM modules as well too.
Yeah, so these are NPM modules. Yeah. We're just, instead of using require, we're using import. So it's bringing the NPM module into our project so that we can use it.
Like if we're importing from another folder, is that, never mind.
It's the same as require. The difference between this and require is that you can tell it to import only the things that you want to use.
Oh, but does it also, because with require, if you don't specify a relative path, it assumes it's an NPM module. Does it assume that as well?
In Node modules.
Node modules.
Yes. Yes, it does. I believe so. Do you know the answer to that question, Jonathan?
If you type express there, it's going to import that?
Yeah, it will know to import it from your Node modules folder.
It assumes it's in Node modules.
Yeah, if you don't give it a relative path. Here you are giving it a relative path, so it knows to look from where the file is.
So in one of the Wes Boss examples, if he wanted to pull from another file name, it's import brackets the folder name and then he put the path.
Yeah, that's getting a little bit more complicated than we want to go here. But thank you, Jay.
I'll show it to you how they do it.
Yeah, but if you give it a relative path, here it's looking in here. Data, object before, object after. If we didn't have the relative path, then it probably would go look in Node modules. So this is just showing us how import works, exactly the same as require. It's just a different syntax. The advantage of doing it this way is what? It lets you take only the things you want to use out of a library, right? Like, for example, if we're using jQuery, we might only want to use .each and nothing else from jQuery. Okay, next exercise. ES 2015. Yeah.
What does the default means in the export thing?
Sorry?
Yes, it says export default.
Oh, the default. What is default exports are the best if your module only needs to export one thing. Or should export something else by default if no import name is given. So you could just do module.exports. It's basically the same thing. It's a different way of doing it. The differences are negligible enough that I don't want to take up class time right now to do it, but you guys can go Google for this stuff at home if you want to. Anything quickly to add to export default versus module.exports? They do, in practice, they do pretty much the same thing. ES6 has added a bunch of new features. Sometimes you'll see people using them. for now, for you guys as junior developers, I would not recommend spending too much time trying to figure out what is the difference between module.exports versus export default, because they do pretty much the same thing.
Do you recommend we use the ES6 version?
Well, they're both ES6, and I recommend that you follow along with whatever library you're using. Because when you get this deep into using ES6 and stuff, you'll usually be learning it from some type of library, whether it's Express, whether it's React, whether it's something like that. So just follow along with the examples you're given and do it pretty much the way they're telling you. We're not really at that architectural level yet where we're thinking about how to architect our apps. But these are all good questions. Okay. Let me see. So we're going to talk about ES 2016 modules. And I talked about this to you a little bit, Nelson. The difference between ES6 and ES 2016 is that ES6 is a set of features that were decided on by the working group at the European Computer Manufacturers Association. They decided here are the features that we're going to want in ECMAScript 6. Now, not all tech companies were able to implement these features. It didn't make sense for them. Some of it weren't able to get it done in time. Some of them wanted to add more things. So they decided instead of having just versions, we're going to call it ES 2016, where they're basically saying, here's the things that we were able to agree on and get done this year. Then next year, maybe we'll have more things that we're able to agree on and get done. They also call it ES Harmony. So they call it 3 different things because it's very hard for all the different players, for Microsoft and for Mozilla and for Google and for everybody who's involved in JavaScript to all agree on what the different versions of JavaScript should be. So for this reason, we call it different things. But basically, they all include arrow functions. They all include the new array methods we saw. They all include string interpolation, things like that. Some include generators, some don't. So there's some small differences still between them. So if you guys hear ES Harmony, ES 2016, or ES6, you'll know they're all pretty much the same thing, but they have those minor differences, and that's why they have the 3 different names for them. Does that make sense?
And which one is
Node is running, it's like I say, it's very difficult. Not pretty much every JavaScript environment is going to be a little bit different. Node is running ES Harmony now, or Node is running ES6 now by default. They've changed that. It used to be that you would have to run the Harmony flag with it, and they changed that. Do you know anything about that, Jonathan, the Harmony flag for Node? It used to be that Node ran ES5 by default, and if you put node index.js or server.js -- harmony, then it would run all the ES6 features. Now they've changed that. Yeah. Yeah, now it does all the ES6 stuff out of the box. So we're going to talk about ES 2015 modules. You have an index.js. There's a sprite logger, happy face, happy figure, star. Our sprite logger is going to go through our sprites. Anybody know what sprites are? Yeah.
And the stuff you see in like old school games.
Yeah, right. So they come explain that, Melvin.
Isn't that a beverage?
Sprite, I mean, Sprite is just basically like a series of pixelations that generate a design.
Yeah. So back in the days of 8-bit gaming, the way they made their games, when you see like the little mushroom in Super Mario or the little whatever it is, the little question mark, all of those things were one big graphic, and then they just cut it off and they showed you the things that you'd want. This is how a lot of websites decided to do icons and stuff like that before we had web fonts to do icons like Font Awesome. What advanced websites like Yahoo, like Google would do is they would have what's called a sprite, where all of their icons would be on one image, and then they would use CSS just to show the part of the image that icon has. And so for that reason, you can load only one file, because the more files you have, the longer they take to load, because just connecting to the server, shaking hands as they call it, and downloading the file takes time. So if you can put what you have in 100 files in one file, your site will be a lot faster to download. So that's what these sprite things are. What we're doing with them here, we're trying to figure out what sprite to show. Did you guys do this in the last class, Jonathan?
John, if you, sorry.
Really?
If
Yeah.
you wanted a better representation of the sprites, you could just Google like Mario sprites.
Yeah. No, I'm over that. I think you guys all understood what that means. This, I'm just trying to figure out what this app actually does.
We run straight into the days.
Yeah, okay. This stuff isn't really that important, to be honest. You guys can look at it at home. This is just supposed to be showing you how to use import. So we're importing SpriteLogger from SpriteLogger, etc. Let's skip on to the next one. Basically, you guys all understand how this import thing works, right? It works pretty much exactly like require, but it just gives you a different syntax to do that. If you want it, if you want to still use require, that's absolutely fine too. But go with the examples. If you're using a framework that is using import, then go with the import pattern. If you're using a framework that's using require, go with the require pattern. Yeah, Russ.
You use require with import, or you have to.
Yeah, you can use them both together in the same app. That's fine. But you can't do require something from something. If you want to use that import something from something, you have to use import, not require, because that's the difference. Import lets you import only certain things from a module, whereas require, you have to import everything. Okay, here we have classes. This is the thing that said Douglas made Brandon Ike rather say that he was very sad about them adding this feature to JavaScript. I usually tend to err on the side of functional programming, so I don't think this is that good of an idea. Do you guys want to learn about classes in JavaScript, or do we want to skip it? We've seen pseudo classes sort of and what they do. Do you guys all remember talking about stuff like this before object-oriented programming? So there are fully object-oriented languages that do everything this way. The example that I gave, I don't know if any of you remember this, but I gave for object-oriented programming an example that you might want to have objects that inherit from other objects. For example, you might want to have customers. So you would create a customer object which encapsulates all of the business logic and all of the data needs for each customer, right? And then we might want to deviate on that. We might want to say, okay, I can have business-to-business customers, and then I can also have government customers. And I know that there are going to be certain rules for business customers and certain rules for government customers. You remember us talking about this, Jackie?
Yeah.
And so this is one paradigm, one way of making our applications that basically work with this. So we'll have like a single class of something, and then within that, other classes can inherit from that. Like within Pokemon, you might have some who watches Pokemon. What classes of Pokemon do we have? Are there like evil Pokemon and good Pokemon? Or
Fast, just water, grass, and ugly. That'll be your three basic pieces.
right. So everything's a Pokemon. Everything that's a monster that you can make fight with another monster is a Pokemon, and then some are grass and water and what was?
Earth and wind.
Earth and wind and grass. And
that's why I just did mention three, so you can get your point across.
Right. So do you see that? So we could make a Pokemon class, and then we have a Earth Pokemon class that inherits from that class. So this is the basic premise of object-oriented programming. So we can have a class for Pokemon. We're going to have a constructor, so we can instantiate a new Pokemon. This is a lot like what we learned in our object-oriented programming week. But now we're just showing you this class construct where now we can do this in JavaScript as an actual first-class citizen, as the way we're intended to do it. Instead of what people were doing before when they tried to bring an object-oriented paradigm into JavaScript, they were just sort of fighting with it almost. So do we want to do this exercise? I don't think it's very important to like what you guys want to get out of this program.
I mean, React kind of follows that methodology, that word object-oriented programming anyway.
Yeah, and we'll learn about it from React more. I think we're good. SpaceX. What is this SpaceX one? You guys didn't. I know what it is. I mean, what is this X? I mean, what is this STU underscore SpaceX?
I wanted to.
Oh, that's.
Okay. Okay, we're going to do this SpaceX example. You guys want to work on it individually or as a class? Did somebody say no? Mob? Okay, let's mob. we want a driver who has not driven yet. Who hasn't driven yet? Gretel, have you driven yet? Yeah, you have driven. You have driven. Elliot, you've driven. Lucas, you've driven. You've even driven. I know who hasn't driven. I'm not going to make. Mike's driven. Roberto, you've driven. Yamil, you've driven before, right? You have, yeah. Okay, there you go. Good job. Okay, so it looks like we're doing something with scraping SpaceX data, launches. Let's go to our README file. Okay. You are a software engineer at SpaceX. Congrats.
Woo! I make $250,000 a year.
Your ladies for making their website.
It's a software engineer. You can be nice to become
not rocket science.
Yeah, no, I don't think they pay their junior web developers. Anyway, you are a software engineer at SpaceX. You've
A
been
software
tagged.
engineer. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, one important piece of career advice: never call yourself a web developer. Always call yourself a software engineer. Software engineers get paid like 10% or more. Yeah, you're all computer software engineers, not web developers. Okay, or even software developer. Even software developer. Engineers. I always told people I was a software developer. Never. Oh, because it makes sense. So just a good thing. Okay, so we've been tasked with doing risk analysis for specific vehicles to prepare for upcoming launches. To do this, we want to start by looking through previous launches for the same vehicle. So we want to look for each vehicle, then see how many accidents there are. I don't know if you call it a vehicle. I would call it a spacecraft.
Well, the stuff,
no, it's a spacecraft. A space like a ship is not considered a vehicle.
It's a vehicle for items. It's a car.
No, a ship is not a vehicle.
Anyway. It's a vehicle for science.
It's a vehicle for learning, discovery. Okay, being a fancy, shiny SpaceX developer, you have decided to use the new out-of-this-world ES6 syntax as much as possible. This means you won't use for, var, function, etc. with concatenation with. Our goal is to log the following information about each failed launch: the year, the flight number, and the details. For example, to find these failures, you're going to have to use the SpaceX API. Blah, blah, blah. Once we do that, look at the data, and we're going to narrow it down to the specific vehicle we're looking for, and then further narrow it down to these launches and failures. Wait, let me read that one more time. Our goal is to find about each failed launch: the year, the flight number, and the details. So let's go ahead and start out by going to that URL there. And feel free to navigate. Anyone just jump in at any time. Otherwise, I'm just going to try. I'll be interested. That was really.
You didn't want to just manually type out each character?
Paste it.
Maybe you did the wrong key.
Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness. This is.
You must be a Mac guy.
I'm a Windows guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That
This
function key in the bottom corner.
This is very difficult.
Real problem.
Yeah, it's just a different keyboard layout. So that always messes me up.
That's the issue with the Novo.
But you could just type it. There you go. Okay, so we're getting back an array of objects in JSON. So can you bump up the sign control plus?
Control plus.
Not pretty? It should format the JSON. I don't know why it's not. Usually it does. Yeah, I should have it installed on here though. I don't know why it's not doing it. Okay, but we can just use our brains. So we're looking for success. Where's success?
Control it.
Okay, success. Land success, false, land success, launch success. So we want launch success. It's going to give us both because SpaceX, since like a couple of years ago, has rockets that actually land, so they can reuse them. You guys all see that on your thing? Oh no, it's SpaceX. Not Tesla.
Yeah, but isn't there a Tesla? Yeah.
What?
SpaceX launched in Tesla.
Yeah, they sent
They
Oh,
did.
they launched
as the
Tesla
payload.
into space. Yeah. Okay. So now we know which ones launched and which ones didn't. So what are we interested in, guys? The rockets that failed or the rockets that succeeded?
Yeah.
We're interested in the ones that failed because we want to figure out why. So which array method, or because this is an array, which array method can we use to filter the ones that failed?
Filter.
Filter. Right.
So it's like,
Yeah, I made it really easy for you guys, and still you're the only one that got it.
Go back to the code.
Yeah, go back to the code.
Oh.
So let's go to our unsolved index.js. So we're getting that thing. Then we're going to console log the response. Then we catch it when there isn't a response. So let's make that response function. Let's put brackets, curly brackets around the console.log. Just curly brackets around the console log. So this way we can have more than one curly. So what does this do with the arrow function when we wrap the body in curly brackets? What does it do? We had our arrow function, right? We wrap the body of the arrow function in curly brackets. Right now the body is just that one line of code, console.log. So what's the difference between an arrow function that has the curly brackets wrapping around it and one that doesn't?
the one without it, the
Can only have one line. The one without it can only have one line, and the return is implicit. If you try to put two lines of code with a semicolon separating them, it will throw an error. You need to have the curly brackets around. So now we put the curly brackets around it. So now let's move that console log down to a new line, and then put another new line after it. Yeah, like that. Okay, so what do we want to do? What are we interested in here from the response? The ones that had crashes, right? The ones that didn't land.
Right.
The land or the launch success false. So what is our array of objects? Our data is what? The response, right? So we're going to do what? To filter it to the ones that have the launch success false. Somebody. One of you guys remember this. How do we filter it? How do we filter an array? Right. Response.filter. So we'll come down to the next line, Russ. We just come down to leave that console.log where it is, and then come outside of the parentheses, semicolon.
I never do semicolons.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
Response.filter parenthesis.
What argument does filter take, everyone? A function, right? And what argument does the function take?
Item.
The item. Right. Okay. No, it takes a function for.
Let's call it a launch.
Yeah. So it's going to be item. That's fine.
You don't need those parentheses.
Yeah. Just launch.
Just type instead of that pair of parentheses. Launch equals greater than sign. Curly bracket. Actually, we don't even.
No, we don't even need the curly brackets. It's just launch dot launch success.
Launch dot success.
No, launch dot launch underscore success.
Launch dot launch underscore success.
Launch dot launch underscore success. And that's either going to be a true or a false, right? Or wait, let's go back to the. It might be a string. Yeah. Launch success.
Yeah.
No, it's a
No.
boolean.
Yep.
So that's all you need. No, that's not all you need. We want to see if it's false. So we just need an exclamation point. Can you go back to the code? So we just need an exclamation point there in front of launch success. Right there. Yeah. Everyone see why this is working? We want, if launch success is going to be true, this function is going to be returned true. We want the opposite of that. So this will give us back an array of only the items with the launch success is false. You guys see how that's working?
But isn't it going to stringify that?
No, it isn't. That's what we just went back and checked. It is a boolean.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Axios, wouldn't that stringify the result?
No, it JSON parses the response. I think, or we might need the JSON parser, but I don't think we do. Pretty sure we don't. But I will check. Yeah, well, we'll try to run it and see. So let's see what else is.
dying for
What I was doing
before.
before, when I was dealing with this stuff, was the line before console log the typo.
Oh,
Whatever it was.
yeah, you can do that too. Sometimes it just takes a little debugging. Let's see what else we have to do. Convert the data to launch objects and run bnode.
Wait,
what is bnode?
It's a
Babel?
binary, never mind. Well, I think I know.
No, that's
Is that the name of the
Bson.
class?
I'm thinking of
No.
Bson. No, I think that's a typo. Bnode, see where it says bnode, line 17?
Oh yeah, no, that's unless they're using another.
Yeah, no, that's a typo. Okay, so in this example, using Axios, a small library for Ajax, blah, blah, blah. So we need the details, the value of the details, the number succeeded the year.
Jonathan, note 917, that's the same Babel, that's no.
Oh, it's running Babel.
Yeah, we need to run Babel.
Like this. Like that?
No,
It's Babel, yeah, like that.
yeah, like that. Okay. All right, so let's try. So this is all we really need. So let's go back to our JavaScript, to our JSON object in the browser. Yeah. So it's giving us a lot of extra information. We only need 5 or so pieces of information that it listed, right? Did you guys see that? Can you go back to the README again so we can see what we need? These 4 pieces of information. We need the details. We need the number.
Year, like.
We need the value of launch success in the raw object, but we don't really need that because what? We're only getting the ones with launch success, but we'll add that. So how did we map objects to pull out the relevant information? We got .map, right? So we're going to be using what? Do you think it would make sense to use that same thing here?
Yeah, well, you seem to be hinting at it very strongly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad Melvin knows how to pick up on
I don't know much. When someone gives me a hint, I know.
Okay, so we can chain this on to the filter method. .filter.map. And then map takes what type of?
A function.
It takes a function.
It takes a function, an arrow function, and we just care about the
Launch
Yeah, so we care about the
equals
launch,
greater than.
and then we're going to return the 4 things. What was the first thing?
We're not doing the class.
Yeah, he wants us to create a file.
Oh, with a new class? Yeah, we're not doing it.
Okay, we're gonna make a new object, so curly brackets, enter, and it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's going to be a new object, right? Did everyone see why we're doing that? Because this type of function functions can only have one output. In JavaScript, you can't give your functions more than one input, but they can only return one thing. They can have side effects if their output can only be one thing. So we're putting all of these 4 outputs that we want into one object, so that way it can return the one object. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah? Yeah? Lauren, does that make sense?
I'm getting the.
Okay, yeah. So basically map is going to return one thing. So we had an array of objects with all the different things that SpaceX is telling us about our rocket. We just want the 4 things that's asking us. So map is giving us back the relevant.
Are there other languages that return more than one thing?
No, pretty much.
Details,
all
number,
languages have
succeeded.
one output.
Copy
Although
and
there are
paste the
side
whole thing,
effects. Sometimes there are side effects, but there's always one output. I don't think, yeah, there would
Copy and paste that whole thing.
The output could be something like a list. Okay, so it's going to be first launch. We're going to.
Okay, so type in the curly brackets, details, colon, put in a new line.
Launch of details.
I was gonna check the JSON response just to make sure that it wasn't like launch underscore details or something. But I just wanted to put those things in first.
Launch.
So
no, it's telling us the names of the properties.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it tells us right there. So details colon launch.details. Same thing for all of them. And we can go back and check it, but I'm almost sure.
Yeah,
Comma, you're
comma.
missing a comma.
Launch that number.
Flight number.
Which one is it?
I
think it's flight number.
Yeah.
Comma, yeah. Succeeded.
Is that Boolean?
Launch
Or
dot
not?
success.
Yeah, it is. Launch dot launch success.
Oh, yeah, that.
It's underneath, yeah, launch dot.
And then, year, colon, launch dot launch underscore year. And then we gotta figure out what to do with this array.
Okay, so what's the next? Go back to the readme. Let's see what else. Maybe we should do then. First, create a launch class with a separate file with the following properties. It should also have the following methods. Was failure. Okay, so we can go ahead and do this, but let's do it with the older object-oriented methodology first, and then we can do it with the new one. So does anybody remember from our object-oriented programming week how we made a constructor?
Yeah, with a
Yes.
With a function. So let's try to do it that way. Let's see if you guys can remember how to do it this way, and then we can maybe see how to do it with the new class method. So that way we can see how to do it. So whoever remembers how to do a constructor function, tell Russ how to do it.
Do you want me to do it?
Who else remember? Okay, Nelson.
function.
Where am I putting this?
All the way at the
bottom.
Or at the top. Actually, do it at the top, because then we'll have it for here for map. Because then we'll need it.
So after import.
Function. How do we call the function?
It's gonna be var. So no. So first we make a new function. So it'll just be var. What do we call it? It's gonna have a. What kind of a letter does a constructor start with?
It's a capital
Starts
letter.
with a capital letter. So we'll call it. And what are we doing here? These are failures, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's call it var fail with a capital F equals yes. Function brackets. Yeah. Now the argument.
Take all the properties of that object.
Exactly. Thank you. So details, comma number, comma
Here, right?
comma here.
All the properties.
I don't know why we need succeeded if these are all failed. So then we need to bind it to the scope of the object.
These details equal to details. Same thing with numbers, position, year. Everything out finite.
Succeeded equals succeeded. We should let that happen this bad year equals. Okay. Semicolon. Okay. So now we can go down to where we're doing the mapping part, right? And instead of making this new object, we can just do new fail. And then pass in details. Or launch
Oh, we have to
details.
pass in, yeah, all that stuff.
We may not have access to fail from this thing, but we may. Yes.
Professor, when we create objects in JavaScript, when are they being destroyed?
That is, it doesn't have implicit garbage collection like some languages. Are you thinking of like Java or C where you tell it to collect the garbage? Yeah, that all happens inside either the browser or Node or whatever JavaScript runtime environment.
But it's coming out of
It's yeah, garbage collection is on that.
So
Okay, so new fail, it knows to return that automatically. We don't need the braces anymore around it, right? Because that's just one line in the arrow function, so we can leave it just like that. Leave it all on one line. It's good. Yeah, get rid of that. Make it all. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we have a new fail. So now what we need to do is give this array a name, right? Because it doesn't have a name. So we could do var result equals response.filter. Before the response.filter on line 18, make it var or let result equal response.filter. So at the beginning of line 18, LET. Yeah, you got it.
What are we calling it?
Result. Yeah, I was going to call it result, or we could call it failures. Okay, so what's the next thing? Now we have an instance of each of these objects. What's the next thing that it wants us to do? And generate,
sorry.
we go back to that. Note that we should be deconstructing our class constructor. We should be using object, pulling all the raw responses. That's fine. Explain your findings. So now we just want to look at which ones failed, right? So actually, can I drive? Thank you, Rusty. Yeah, good job. Who else hasn't gone yet? So I know, Chris, you haven't gone yet. John, you have not gone. You have you have driven before. Okay. Martha, you've gone. No. Fabian, you haven't gone yet. Okay. You've gone. Adrian, have you gone? No, you haven't.
Madison's driven.
Madison has driven. I know. They've all driven. Lucas, you've driven, right? Pedro's driven.
I've never driven.
Yes, you have. Okay. So let's run this thing and see what it does. First, I need to npm install. What were you going to say, Marcy? Yeah, do the npm install. That's what I was just going to say. Okay, full stack lesson plans. 01. 19, React, what is this, 115. Dash 1 activities, dash 115.
Doing that.
Did you do that, Jonathan? How come it sounds like it's coming from over there?
Should we start?
Melvin?
No. I'm offended that you
Oh, come on. You know you're the culprit. Or at least should be.
I'm not smoking, but I'm not a troublemaker.
Okay. Okay, guys. So we did our npm install. Now we're just going to run index.js, and it should just console log a bunch of stuff. Let's actually not have it console log the response. We're just going to have it console log instead our result. And let's see if this works. So we're doing pretty much the same thing that they're asking for here. We're not using classes because they're not really worth learning. If you guys ever want to learn to write JavaScript, you can go learn it, but it's not going to be important for anything we're really learning in here. It's kind of extra. I'm against it. So. I'm against it. I'm anti-extra.
For people that are in advanced jQuery.
That's separate because jQuery is front end. These classes, ES6 classes, are just going to be on the back end for a long time. So yeah, so that's different. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I see why you bring that up. But I'm going to figure out who's doing that. I'm not getting
Not me.
I'm going to get
The rainbow at the start of the white.
import Axios. So it doesn't like import. Right. So we can fix that in a couple of ways. We might have to install Babel, but let's see if we can do it with Harmony instead. Okay, no. So it doesn't like us using import here, so we're going to have to use Babel to make that okay. So let's go back to their Babel instructions. And if you guys just want to follow along with me, then you won't have to do it for your homework before Thursday. So let's just look at our Babel setup, what it's telling us to do, Babel compatibility table. So this compatibility table, I think, is for the features of ES6 and which ones we can use where. So let's take a look at this here.
Kangas, what was that?
Kangax.github.io. And you guys have this in your unsolved examples that we sent out to you. Okay, so this is basically just telling us all the different runtimes, including Clojure, my personal favorite. Yeah, in Firefox 60. What is SF? Safari. So a whole bunch of different JavaScript runtime environments we have here, and this just tells us which features work where. So if we look at Node, if we come over here and look at Node greater than or equal to 8.1, and then we're going to need to find down here import. Built-in, weak map, weak set, find, import, sorry. Yeah, but we're just looking at Babel now. Why? What is it? What?
You can't do it from Node, we have to use
Harmony? What is it?
Node 9.
Oh, Node 9. Oh, okay. So the Harmony flag doesn't work. Anyway, it's not there, but we're going to learn to install Harmony with the last few minutes of class. So we have the Babel REPL. Who knows what a REPL is?
Read, eval, print.
Loop. Yeah, Jackie. That's awesome. I didn't even know what a REPL was till like 2 years ago when I started using Clojure. If you ever use Clojure, everything is about the REPL. It's pretty much like every other word is REPL. So this Babel REPL will allow you to see what the Babel read eval print loop does. Installing Babel CLI globally. So we just do this, npm install, blah, blah, blah. You guys will all have these instructions. Is anyone following along with me now? Some of you guys are going to do it from home. You guys will all have this done by Thursday, though?
Yes. So I guess I'm confused with the Babel and the grunt.
Yeah. So let's explain this again. Babel is a transpiler, right? It interprets your code from whatever ES6 features you want to use, whether it's just import, whether it's import and arrow functions. Whatever you want, you can tell it which ES6 features you're using, or JSX. Even then, it will convert it to whatever you want it to use. If you want it to run in ES5, it'll convert your ES6 stuff back down to ES5. So that's what Babel does, right? So Grunt runs Babel, among other things.
But if I have it as a plugin for Atom, it's still not going to apply?
No, you can use it. So here's the thing. You can use it for a plugin as Atom. The problem with that is every time you want to test your code out, you got to go and run your Atom plugin. You got to save the code. You got to deploy it. So Grunt does that for you, so you don't have to do it every time. It's a task runner. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Blah, blah, blah. Error. Permission denied. Okay, I have to rerun this with sudo.
Those preset stage 2.
Bless you.
So the presets are, as we talked about, you can choose which features of ES6 you want to transpile down to ES5 or ES4. So the presets are just the common ones that it gives you by default, which are most of the ES6 features. What? Explaining what the presets do?
No, like, they didn't put any presets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to kind of figure it out as we go. But this should install it with all the right presets for ES6 globally. I haven't played with it enough really that I can answer specific questions about why stuff isn't working.
Don't care about code.
Yeah, they are similar to Webpack is sort of replacing them. Although some people, we're not going to use Webpack in this class. Some people say they don't like it. Some people say they do. It all depends. Webpack will do more stuff for you out of the box. It was more designed around the transpilers, whereas Grunt and Gulp were designed before the transpilers became a thing. So it was sort of like an afterthought adding them.
So we aren't using Webpack?
We aren't going to be using Webpack for this class. No.
Do you suggest?
We're going to see it Thursday, but we're not really going to be, it's going to be there, but we're not going to go into what it does or the setup or anything. It's kind of be there in the background.
Okay, so this worked. So now we can see that if I use this with bnode instead, no command bnode. Oh no. Babel dash node? Okay. Okay, so it still doesn't have the right syntax library. We might not get through this today.
We'll do it for homework.
Babel CLI. So wait, I have to do this one extra step. This is just going to add it to my path. The path, as you guys know, as we went over in Linux, is the basically where your operating system looks for executables to run. So if you don't have it in your path, you have to run it from the file that it actually lives in. Oh, yeah. This. Gotta do this. Okay.
All right. But it just give you.
This is not working. Are you working on the same thing, Martha, or something different? Oh, okay. Well, Well, we're almost done. I really want to keep the class time for what we're working on in class. If you have something that's out of scope, do that during office hours. Okay. Jonathan, can you figure this out, why this is not working? I added bn to my path. It's whatever I just added to my path. It wants me to add Babel CLI. the alias for BN. So npm-i-save Babel CLI, and then I'm pushing that out to my bash profile.
Right there, number 29, copy after above, like that whole npm install, blah, 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 blah.
This?
Again, didn't work correctly, so just do that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you guys have it already, actually. It's in there. Then really? No, it should all be there in the. Why was this not? They should have gotten this whole MD file, right?
I mean, it might have been like a recent thing that they changed on the.
I haven't done a pull. Okay, I'll Slack it out to you guys, but I just think that's weird that you didn't get it.
I don't know, that's what I have too. I don't have what you have.
Skipping over this dependency. Okay, so this installed what? So after I done this, were you saying I should do bn or bnode? Bnode index.js.
You're the one that has the updated file, because I have what they have as well.
But I haven't done a pull.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So that's why maybe that's outdated and that doesn't work.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, let me try that then. I'm going to have to do a pull on this whole thing. Git pull. Okay, well, it looks like we're not going to have time to install Babel for this week, so you guys try to do it on your own, and we'll make sure everybody is up and running by next class. Yeah, sorry about that. What? Yeah, local. Wait, did you say locally or globally? Yeah, globally, because we'll use it globally. It's not attached to a given project. It should be installed globally. And that's what they're, just follow whatever instructions they give you. Yep, no problem. See you. See you, Mara. See ya.
They would need a.
Let me get a job.
Get the train.
The president is looking for that. Yeah, I would have.